Here we are again.
We're back.
We're back. Da-da-da. We did a recording just a couple hours ago.
We did, and we'll keep you posted when it drops. It's a guest on another podcast.
Yeah. I'm Erin.
I'm Tom.
This is Baby's First Watch List, the podcast that just announced we're done.
Forever. No,
For a
actually
couple
just for a couple months.
Yeah, we're going to have our second baby.
Yeah. If you
And-
didn't listen to our very special announcement, I'm slightly offended. But in case you missed it, we're going to be coming back in the fall sometime, maybe September, October, with a slightly different format. Instead of doing an episode every single week, we're going to split it up into sort of seasons so we can both put out shows and adjust to our parenthood.
Mama needs a break.
Part 2.
Yep.
So we'll be doing like themed seasons. So, there's a million different themes we can do. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you want to hear. So please reach out to us on Instagram at Baby's First Watchlist or email us at babiesfirstwatchlist@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, let us know what you want to hear. What kind of movies, what kind of guests you want us to reach out to. I think I mentioned maybe getting James Cameron on if we do Avatar 2. I'm reaching out.
Yeah, we're reaching out.
My people are in touch with his people.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah, let us know what you want us to do. We want to make it sort of user-friendly and listener-friendly and
Keep it fresh.
keep it fresh.
That's right.
It's been 2 years, almost 100 episodes.
Yeah, it's been pretty much 2 years.
Yeah, I think it's time for a slight facelift.
For sure.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Today we're covering a newer release once again.
We've done a couple more of those lately.
Yeah, we have, and I'm glad about it. I like that. It's 2023 romantic comedy Anyone But You.
Which you probably heard of even if you didn't see.
Yeah, it was a pretty big hit.
It was.
Pretty big hit this past year. This is a Shakespeare adaptation, actually, which I didn't know until we were like in the middle of watching it.
And then it was plainly obvious.
Yeah.
We'll get to it.
So it was of comedy Much Ado About Nothing. I've never read that one.
I actually planned on reading it before we started this podcast because it's like a 90-page play, and
Yeah.
then I forgot.
I think I've read like 12 Shakespeare plays, and this was
Not to brag, but
not to brag, but like
I've read like 3.
No way, you've read more than 3, I think. You've read Romeo and Juliet because everyone's read Romeo and Juliet.
Hamlet.
Hamlet, Macbeth.
No.
Oh.
Othello.
Othello, that's a
Kind
good
of.
one.
I didn't actually read it,
Othello's a good one. I've read that a
we
couple
theoretically read it in class.
times. All right.
Midsummer Night's Dream.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
Okay. I actually have never read Macbeth or Midsummer Night's Dream.
I've seen enough Macbeth movie adaptations
that
for
you
all
got
of
the
us.
gist.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess neither one of us has read this one. Maybe we'll have to give it our best shot and see how it compares.
Yeah. I didn't read like Julius Caesar, like some of those.
Oh, I didn't read any of the histories.
that
Boring.
you would have read in high school.
Yeah.
Henry the whatever.
Yeah.
The 5th, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never read any of those.
There's a lot of good ones. King Lear's the best though.
Yeah, I gotta. Since I love Succession so much, I should read King Lear.
You really should. It's really, really, really well done. So Anyone But You was directed by Will Gluck. He is known for directing Easy A, Friends with Benefits, and Peter Rabbit and its sequel. He hasn't really done all that much as far as like directing other movies.
He had. I recognized his name, and I thought he had done more, but I just recognized him from Easy A.
Yeah, exactly. Because Easy A is a fave.
Yeah.
He co-wrote this script with Alana Wolpert. She does not have a Wikipedia page, but she did mark Anyone But You with 5 stars on Letterboxd.
That's amazing.
So we respect it.
I love that.
And she did the the typical comment there, which is like, I wrote this, but 5 stars.
Yeah.
So I kind of love that about it.
I love that.
I
I would do the same exact thing.
100%. The music is by S.D. Haim from the band Haim.
Yes.
And that's unfortunate.
It was unfortunate. We'll talk about the score.
That's
I'm
not
sure.
great.
No.
And Christopher Stracey, who's part of an Australian DJ duo called Bag Raiders.
Okay.
And
Room Raiders.
Like Room Raiders. Yeah, exactly. Starring Glenn Powell, Sydney Sweeney, Dermot Mulroney, Rachel Griffiths, Gata, more. Anyone But You was filmed in Australia in early 2023. There was actually a lot of hype around the movie, with lots of it being based on tabloid rumors between the two stars.
Yes.
So it was a big controversy for months, I would say, where Glenn Powell and his girlfriend broke up, and then Sydney Sweeney, it was like, oh, will she and her fiance break up? And they didn't. And it's like, oh, it's because they're actually together, and they weren't. Glenn Powell just came out and said like recently, like, no, it was like a marketing ploy.
Yeah.
And it was
Not
Sydney
the first
Sweeney's
time, not
idea.
the last time that will happen.
Exactly. It very much gave me old school like 90s tabloid vibes, which I kind of liked.
Yeah.
There's a lot about this movie that I like.
The funny part about it is like I see that a lot of people talk about how great of chemistry they have.
That was not what
That was not one of my takeaways.
I agree.
Not that I didn't like them, not that I didn't like either one of them, but I think that sort of played into the hype around their out of like offset relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if I bought it enough in the movie to believe that they would be. I mean, I believe that they would have, especially if they were single, like, because whatever, I don't know these people,
right?
But like, I don't know. I just feel like it doesn't translate on screen enough for me to be like, oh, those two ended up together.
Totally, I agree. Interesting. The movie was released in December, and it was a surprise huge hit. It has made $219.2 million on a mere $25 million budget. And it was a big deal once it hit that $100 million mark, especially because theatrically released rom-coms are not as common nowadays. We see a lot of the Netflix ones that come out, including a Glenn Powell one, Set It Up, that's really good from a few years ago.
Yeah.
With Zoe Deutsch. And this one...
Everybody wants some co-stars.
Yes, exactly. And so this one got released to theaters, and people are seeing it as almost hope for a revitalization of the genre.
This and like No Hard Feelings,
which isn't quite rom-com.
No,
but is more like kind of
raunchy
comedy. Yeah.
Which also is not as represented in Hollywood as
exactly.
It once was.
So just these basic different subgenres of the comedy thing, which I know that. Some people think that there haven't been a lot of comedies that have come out recently. Clearly, not many Ricky Stenicki fans out there.
Oh.
But I would argue that you could look a little deeper, and they're there for sure.
Yeah.
They just look a little different than the 2000s.
Your super bads.
Yeah. But it is nice to.
Your 10 Things I Hate About Yous, which we just covered.
Your Shakespeare adaptation rom-coms.
Well, yeah, we'll talk about that later.
And it's nice to see ones that are very, very clearly reminiscent of those of the past that are doing well.
But a movie like this is not necessarily nostalgic either. It's
No.
not like paying homage to those movies. It's trying to do its own thing.
Kind of.
Right.
I have things to say about that, too.
I'm not saying that it's like the most original movie I've ever seen in my life, but I definitely think that it's not just like, oh, remember those comedies?
Right.
Not entirely.
Yeah. So that's it didn't do as well critically, Anyone But You. And a lot of times we are pretty much in line with the critical reception of movies.
Not all the time.
No, but in this case.
In this case.
So obviously there's not a ton out about this yet. It just came out. So that's the background I got for you.
Yeah, so just so you guys know, the taglines for this movie.
Okay, let's hear them.
Neither of them are that good, unfortunately. They're fine.
Boo.
This isn't what it looks like is one of them.
Okay.
Like, it's like a double entendre.
Yeah.
And then the other one is, they only look like the perfect couple.
Hmm.
Those aren't that great.
And honestly, though, like the teaser trailer was pretty bad for this movie as well.
I think it was like, wasn't it like super, super hyped? And then the teaser trailer came out
and it was
and
what?
Kind of slowed down a little bit.
It wasn't funny at all.
Yeah.
And then the real trailer came out and it was like, okay, this is more what we thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's the synopsis. After an amazing first date, B-E-A, Sydney Sweeney, and Ben, B-E-N, Glenn Powell's fiery attraction turns ice cold until they find themselves unexpectedly reunited at a wedding in Australia. So they do what only any two mature adults would do, pretend to be a couple.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, mixed results.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you want to talk about?
So let's talk about the movie itself. I know that like we're slightly mixed on it. I expected to love it.
Yeah.
And I liked it.
I expected to think it was fine, and I thought it was fine.
All right. So what did you like about this movie, and what did you not like so much?
I know that there's stuff going on with him, but I really like Gaeta.
I know. I know.
He has some
His
allegations.
character was lovely.
His character is lovely, as his character is lovely in Dave.
Yeah, the show Dave is really good. Season 2 started off very
Strange.
different. Yeah,
Almost
strange.
like thrillery.
But by the end, the end is really heartwarming.
Yeah.
And it was cool to see.
I was happy to see him, and then I actually looked him up after, and I was like, oh.
He's going through some stuff.
He's going through some stuff.
For sure. But as a side character, his character is really, really fun. I agree.
He's just so off kilter.
Yeah.
That he just adds like a kind of a twist in the dynamic of like something that could have been extremely generic. And I think that he works in this movie. I could see people being like, all right, I get it. Because he's a little over the top. But like when he's like talking to the koala.
Yeah, that's
you
cute.
know? So when they meet up again 6 months later and Ben is telling Pete, like, who's Gata's character, like, that's the girl from 6 months ago or whatever. Pete goes, I thought she looked familiar, but I don't see faces. I only see souls.
Yeah, I remember that. That was cute.
So I really did like his performance. I think that he just keeps things interesting always. Mm-hmm. And I liked Sydney Sweeney. I liked Glenn Powell. I thought they were both, amiable. I thought they were both fine. I thought they both had their moments of being good and not being good.
Yep.
Yeah, what did you like?
What I liked about the movie is that it kept it light and fresh and fun.
It did.
For the most part. You do have the typical miscommunication trope and stuff between them and how, she leaves and then she comes back and he's saying something, but he's only saying it because he's hurt by her and that kind of thing.
Let's be honest. The script doesn't do either of them any favors.
No.
Anything that you pull from this movie is on the strength of the performances.
Right. So, I do think that that's a little okay. But I actually thought that they did a nice job of keeping it fun. I really thought that some of the side characters wwere interesting. But
Mulroney, the dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Australian dad.
Yeah.
The brides were cute.
Yeah.
Like there's the ex-boyfriend. Yeah, like they're fun.
They were fine.
And a lot of times in those kinds of movies, the other characters are just very much generic, like, don't even remember them.
When we watched Irish Wish not too long ago,
it's
they're
exactly.
They're just pieces of paper on screen.
Exactly. And here they felt like real characters.
Sort of.
I did think that I wish that there were more characters. It felt like it was filmed during like quarantine COVID times.
Was not.
And it wasn't. So I expected a bigger cast.
They were in Sydney for most of it.
Yeah, I guess they spent all the money on the budget and the drones over Sydney, Australia.
There's so many drones. I wrote down drone budget for this movie. High.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was, but it was high.
I also think there were a couple of scenes that were legitimately really funny. The spider scene was legitimately fresh and funny, I thought.
It kind of came out of nowhere. It had the surprise factor, which was good.
Something else that I liked, it connected to... So one of the tropes of this movie is enemies to lovers, right? And I'll talk to you. I have a question about what tropes and rom-coms you like and dislike. But that was the big one, right? Enemies to lovers. But what I thought was cool and different about this is that you see an initial first date between them that went really, really well.
Well, the episode that we just recorded that we were guesting on is Before Sunrise.
Yeah.
And it almost is that type of thing where they just hang out all night and they just talk and get to know each other. And it's after like a random meet cute in a coffee shop.
Yeah, and I like that. I like the meet cute was cute.
I thought the meet cute was dumb. But
it was fine.
But whatever.
She had to pee and you had to be a customer to get the bathroom key.
Yeah, so he
pretended to be
her husband.
Yeah, to buy her something so she could use it. It's cute.
And I think it was funny that they pretended to be a couple and then they pretended to be a couple later.
Yeah,
that was like the whole premise of the movie.
That's I think that's cute. And I liked that you saw the chemistry with them where they legitimately liked each other. And it wasn't necessarily their personalities that they didn't like about each other. It was the circumstances of the miscommunication that made them hate each other. And I think that made it more believable of them being a couple that would end up together.
Yeah.
Rather than... I read a lot of romance novels and a lot of times like the characters legitimately hate each other and then they're just like one day, they just fall in love. And it's like, that's not really realistic. And I thought that something like this felt a lot more realistic, especially because you have characters that are slightly older than like, your typical 21-year-olds. And so it's something where
What's Sydney Sweeney, 24?
she was like 25, 26. I know. I would have cast someone older, to be honest with you, but
they at least make a joke.
They
out of
do
their
make
age
jokes
gap.
about it, so that's cool. And he's not egregiously older.
No, and he doesn't look like he's
No.
that much older.
But what I like is, by the time you are slightly older, if someone gives you the ick or says something rude, you're like, I'm done, right? Like, it's not like, oh, well, he's a jerk and everyone hates him, but I know the true him kind of thing. Like, if somebody says something rude to you, or you overhear something that they say to their friend, you're done. And so I think that that's a little bit more of a mature take than, even though it's not, because miscommunication in itself is, but
also the fact that Ben was talking to Pete about her in that way, where he was trying to put on
being mean.
He was trying to put on as if he really didn't like her, and he was being super mean, like not knowing that she was there, but to Pete.
Right.
And Pete is the type of guy who you learn throughout the movie. It would have been totally cool with him being like, no, I had this amazing night.
Right.
She just left. I don't know what's going on with her.
Yeah, that was a little weird. And also, then Sydney Sweeney later on is like mean to him.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, I just keep making mistakes after they had just gotten together. And it's like, oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. After she was like, it was good that they had gotten together. And then she was like, I don't know about this. I just keep making mistakes.
Yeah. And it was like, oh, okay. That was kind of mean.
They're so annoying in this movie.
But overall, like, I did like that the miscommunication was the problem, not that they hated each other.
Right. It wasn't anything fundamental in their personalities.
Exactly. And I think that made it more realistic later on.
Yeah. I mean, miscommunications happen.
Always.
Not necessarily in this way, but
I do think it's lazy writing sometimes with rom-coms, because it's always what happens.
Yeah. You said it before it happened. You're like, she's going to walk back in.
100%.
Yeah.
Oh, and then remember there was one line that I said before she said it?
Yeah.
I feel like there's always, in a lot of movies, that always happens, and I'm like, I could write this. And this one I actually probably could write.
This one is less artificial intelligence than Irish Wish.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's a step above most of those Netflix rom-coms.
But they had the source material right there. They had
it's
literally
Shakespeare, the best playwright of all time.
The Bard.
Yeah.
They had and they turned it into this. But whatever. It's fine.
That's fine. What about your least favorite things about this movie?
The score.
Yeah.
Like, it's strange.
It was 3 different things in one.
It's
very
strange
weird.
for me to say that about a movie like this, where it's not like the score doesn't really matter. But it was
No, but it was very off-putting.
It stuck out to me so much. It was just so like schmaltzy.
So there was, number one, there was a lot of jazz.
I liked the jazz portion of it.
That was the whole part of it. And then there was sort of indie
like
dance
synthy,
pop. Yeah. And then they had but then there was like traditional like Netflix soaring score. Yeah. And you had all 3 intermingled.
And like sort of without any logic to when each was coming in.
It was very bizarre to me.
It was, the problem is like I can notice a really good score, but if it's a bad score, it really, really sticks out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
Like, and this was not. I think that even something broadly generic would have suited this movie better than what we got.
And Bravo fans will understand what I'm about to say. A lot of the songs that were in it, like the synth pop songs, felt like Vanderpump Rules in between scene songs that they pay like some random person to do, where you're like, I've never heard this song in my life. That's because they make it for that show, so that you don't have to pay actual royalties for songs.
Right.
That's what it felt like. I was like, I've never heard of any of these songs before.
But the thing is, they paid the royalties for Natasha Bedingfield in this one.
Well, you got to spend all the money on Natasha.
Because Unwritten plays
many times.
3 or 4 times.
Yes, it does.
Including in the credits.
Sure does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like Ben's like comfort song when he's flying on the plane, and he's like, because he's like afraid of flying.
Right.
So he puts his little he goes to first class, of course, and he puts the mask on, and he lays back, and he's listening to Unwritten the whole time, and then they comes back later on.
Right. Yeah. And so that's iffy. And then there's a couple other things. Here's my thing about this movie. I think that so Easy A was purposefully referential to previous rom-coms.
It builds on the back
right?
of everything else purposely
and
explicitly.
And it's funny and whatever. This one, I think, tried to do new things, but they tried to fit in the different tropes of rom-com movies, like the Natasha Bedingfield. They wanted a song that then would go viral that everyone already knows and likes, but it would be like, oh, remember that song from Anyone But You? Oh my God, so funny.
Like Murder on the Dance Floor from Saltburn.
Exactly.
It's not a rom-com, but...
Exactly. Like, yeah, any movie that has a song that comes back. And Unwritten was around the time Murder on the Dance Floor came out, so it kind of makes sense, like 20 years later.
The Kate Bush song in Stranger Things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that
they were trying to have that.
Yeah.
Just
like they're trying to have, look at this amazing chemistry between these two leads.
These two up and coming stars.
They must be having an affair in real life that we have to put in the tabloids, just like in previous movies. You know, like, oh, there needs to be the friends that are a little goofy, and so they're the comic relief. Like, wait, there's always got to be these things.
You're saying it's overly structured.
Very much so, and to me that kind of took away from
the spontaneity,
and maybe something that could come new out of this.
Yeah,
that just didn't for me.
Yeah.
Sydney Sweeney wore this beautiful silk blue dress on the way to the thing, and it was like this whole scene, and it's like, oh, you mean like the Kate Hudson satin silk yellow dress that she wore in How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, right? Like, it's directly, they're trying to make that dress big.
See, I didn't catch something like that because I've never seen How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days.
Right.
And I'm not like as tapped into the genre.
Yeah.
So I can totally see where you're coming from with that.
It's just everything felt like there was they're trying to go viral with it or trying to become a new classic version of something that already exists within the genre.
I will say that I'm happy this movie did well. Because
me too.
I don't care about the quality of it. It wasn't bad. It was fine.
No, I liked it.
We're kind of crapping on it a little bit, but it's not bad.
No.
And it is not something... I want more of these types of movies because, I want to sort of... we just watched 10 Things I Hate About You. That was awesome. Like, I want more movies like that. I want this genre to come back. So I'm happy that this movie did well.
Yeah.
But, I think there are definitely some drawbacks to the way that it was executed.
Well, since you want to see more rom-coms, I want to know what your favorite and least favorite rom-com tropes are. Because here we have enemies to lovers. We have miscommunication. We do have the meet cute. But let me give you some other ones that are in kind of the world of rom-coms. So while you do have enemies to lovers, you also have friends to lovers. It's a classic. The love triangle, which they tried to do, but like not really, which I kind of liked.
There was never really any doubt that
I didn't think that you needed
that he was ending up with his ex or she was ending up with her ex.
Exactly.
There was never really any doubt. And I was like, okay, so the exes are ending up together, and that's exactly
and they kind of did. And I liked that about it. I like that wasn't like, oh, the stakes are high with that one. It's fun to kind of hint at it, but not really go there.
Well, it sucks for Benjamin.
Yeah, well,
he
ended up dating a model. He's fine.
Yeah, well, also he got flown out to Sydney for free.
For free, yeah, exactly.
It was just awkward.
There's the fake relationship, which they also did in this one. You have forced proximity, which they made a joke about.
Yeah.
Where they're like, oh, you have to share a room. Just kidding. Like that kind of thing. You have second chance romance, which I guess this is too.
Is this every trope?
It's everything. You have grumpy sunshine, aka opposites attract.
Not really that one.
Not really that one. So what is your favorite of the rom-com tropes that I've listed, and what's one that you don't like?
So I think that all of them are fine if they're done correctly.
Sure.
I think that a miscommunication, even while it's sort of cliche, or a meet cute while it's sort of cliche, I think in the right circumstances can be something that adds to either character or you're just like, oh, I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that either was particularly done super well in this movie.
Yeah.
I like a friends to lovers movie. I think that
that's because that's our relationship.
Well, I think it adds to sort of the realism of what actual relationships are, and there's ways to be funny about it. Like When Harry Met Sally is very funny.
Mm-hmm.
It's a funny movie. It's very smart. I like those types of rom-coms, and even something like an enemies to lovers, like a 10 Things I Hate About You, which again is fresh in my mind. I just think that there's ways to hit all of these tropes correctly, and I think it's kind of a cop-out answer, but I think it really depends on the writer and the performers. And if you don't have one of those, it's very hard to land these tropes correctly, especially because they've been done so many times and they've been done well so many times individually. It's hard to nail these because of how many times they've been done.
Yeah. I agree. I think Friends to Lovers is the best because number one, you have this comfortability between the two that I think is always a nice baseline to go off of. And then I also like it because when people are friends, they're nice to each other. And I don't always like when people are sparring and mean and like, oh, they're enemies. So the guy's like rude to her or like whatever.
I think it depends on the performers too.
Sure. So that's why I like Friends to Lovers.
Like I'm thinking of something like Something's Gotta Give.
Yeah.
Where like Jack Nicholson is just that prickly type of actor. Where
Yeah,
that
sure.
works for someone like him.
Yeah.
You know, so I think it does work in the right situations.
Yeah. I don't love the love triangle. That's annoying sometimes.
I think it depends. I think if you look at something, I mean, it's not a rom-com, but if you look at something like Past Lives, I think there's ways to make it interesting. And apparently Challengers is like that too.
Yeah.
So I think it can work in the right scenario.
Yeah.
I will tell you. I'll tell
not
you,
a fave though.
I will tell you which one I think I categorically don't like.
What?
The Makeover.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I'm just not. That's not it. I think it's. I just don't think that those work anymore.
You don't like it? Well, you haven't seen She's All That.
Well, I again, not really a rom-com, but I hated it in Breakfast Club.
Yeah. In She's All That, they literally just like take off her glasses and put and her hair's down.
I hated it in Grease. I hated it in Miss Congeniality. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Something like a Princess Diaries is not as bad because it's not for a guy.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's one thing if it's to, you know, if that's what makes you feel good, great, go for it. And then she ends up not at the end anyway.
Right.
Of Princess Diaries.
Right.
When she's giving the speech in her sweatpants or whatever.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Good times. How do you feel about the leads in this? And you mentioned it a little bit. And I want you to, if you were to, okay, I have two, it's like multiple parts. So the first part is, how do you feel about the leads in this and their chemistry and how they work together?
I thought that they were, chemistry-wise, I think that they were adequate.
Yeah.
I don't think that they had bad. I don't think it was like, oh my God, these people would never be together.
Right. I mean, they're both beautiful. They're both funny.
Yeah. I mean, it's just something where I expected them to have better chemistry.
Yeah, I agree.
Sydney Sweeney, I will start with her because I feel like she's a lightning rod.
Yeah.
Right now. I think that I like her. I think she's a good actress. I don't think that she gets enough credit.
Yeah,
for
she's getting
some of her roles.
she's getting kind of
reduced.
Yeah, and I think she's better than what people say.
Do I think she's an Oscar winner? Probably not.
No.
But that's okay.
Maybe in the future, but
not everyone has to be.
Right.
And that's totally fine. And I think that she is good in roles where she's allowed to be more sarcastic and sort of play up her like Gen Z-ishness.
She's a multiple-time Emmy nominee.
I'm thinking of The White Lotus. I know there's mixed reviews on her in White Lotus as compared. More people like her in Euphoria, I think.
Yeah,
but
I liked her in both.
I just like the way that she can be so like toxic and like poisonous, like the way that she has her delivery. I don't think she was cast well in this movie. I think that.
Yeah, she needs a little Regina George to her.
Exactly. She doesn't really have like the doe-eyed kind of naive.
No.
Like, I don't think she has that really in her. At least yet.
Girl Next Door vibes. She doesn't quite give.
She doesn't really have
She's
it.
the girl next door if the girl next door is the cheerleader that bullied you in 6th grade.
Yeah. And not that I think that she's like that in real life necessarily.
No.
I don't know her, but
that's just where, like, with some of her roles, that's where she shines.
Yeah. And I think that her performance in this is against type, which I think is cool that she's doing something a little bit different. But I don't think it quite landed how it might have with a different actress.
Yep.
But I thought she was fine overall. No like major issues. If we're just here talking about it. So
right.
Glenn Powell, I considered myself a Glenn Powell fan before this.
Yep.
I talked about Everybody Wants Some, which is like one of my favorite movies. It's just great. It's about a college baseball team, and it's Richard Linklater. It's so much fun, especially if you've seen Dazed and Confused. It's kind of like that. He was great in that. Probably one of the standouts.
Loved him in it.
And he was good in Top Gun Maverick. I was looking forward to seeing him in this. And it's not that I didn't like him in this. Again, I thought he was a little bit lacking as to where I thought he was going to be. He had 2 facial expressions the entire movie. And he was squinting the entire movie. He played a finance bro pretty well.
Yeah.
He's not supposed to be like a super likable guy the whole way through. And he is. He's charming. But there's just something. It was a little one note to me.
I would like you to watch Set It Up.
Okay.
Where
I would watch it. I don't care.
It is. Oh, do you know who's in it? Tay Diggs.
Oh yeah, we just talked about it today.
He was on a Sesame Street video we were watching.
Yeah. Parent life.
Yeah. So Glenn Powell.
Our baby was asleep. No.
No.
We're not at that point yet.
Glenn Powell is also romantically in that one, and so I would be interested for you to compare the two because I did like him in that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What do you think?
Here's my thing. I do think even though the age gap isn't crazy, it's like what 10 years,
something like that.
I would have cast a woman in her 30s. Here's my thing. I would have cast Margot Robbie, not that they have the budget for her,
right,
in that role.
9 years.
9 years. Okay. I would cast Margot Robbie.
And also, let's be honest, not that Glenn Powell has the gravitas to go toe-to-toe with Margot Robbie either.
No.
Like, in terms of acting quality.
Not that we've seen.
Not that we've seen.
Because, like, the whole point here is it's two extraordinarily hot people.
Right. Right?
Like, that's part of the vibe.
Yes.
I think that would have hit a little better for me. Because I do think Glenn Powell has that rom-com star power for me. But I would like to see him with someone who was more age appropriate. And to have someone, they only have 2 years of an age difference, him and Margot Robbie.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What is she? She's younger?
Yeah.
33?
Yep. Or I would like to see if it wasn't based on the like, oh, these are the two most gorgeous people that's ever been alive, whatever. Not saying she's not beautiful, but I would love someone like Jenny Slate to ramp up the comedy part of it.
Right.
And she's beautiful too, but it's just a different,
Neither of these two have the most incredible comic chops in the world.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I would like someone who would bring something besides what is written on the paper.
Right.
Comedic wise.
Instead of relying only on the side characters.
Exactly. Although they have a good banter.
They do. Again, I do like them together in this movie. Somebody, one of the reviews I read on this movie, I forget if it was RogerEbert.com or it was some of them, Vox or something like that, said that they would love to see kind of a Tom Hanks, Meg Ryan thing and have these two specifically do like a couple different
That'd
movies.
be cool. I would be in, and I would watch it.
Listen, I would watch a second one with these two together.
For sure.
For sure.
Yeah. I'm just thinking of other options here.
Yeah. Oh, no, I know.
And then my other question is, I want you to cast a romantic comedy. I'm going to steal from the internet for my example.
Yeah, go for it.
So, Io Adebiri had a picture up on St. Patrick's Day with her and Paul Mescal, and the rumor that came from the internet was that they were filming a romantic comedy together, and that clicked so well in my brain for like, yes.
What would it even look like?
I don't care.
Like, the two of them, personality-wise, are just so...
Exactly. Opposites.
The characters that they've played.
Opposites attract.
Yeah, but they're both nice.
Yeah, but I kind of love that. But they're nice and awkward, but they are so different from each other.
Yeah.
I kind of love it.
Yeah.
I'd be so down to watch that.
That would be... I love the two of them, so I wouldn't...
what's wrong with it?
Of course.
And I would love to see. I mean, I haven't seen Bottoms, and I don't know. It's a comedy, obviously. I don't know how romantic it is. Maybe is it a romantic comedy? I don't know. With Io Adebiri, but Paul Mescal does not really do comedy.
Yeah, I'm gonna look up real quick. I don't think he's been in one to of note.
And I think he was on the Chicken Shop Date show and said that's not his vibe.
No, he's never been in one.
Yeah, and so I would like him to try to be in one. I think that would be so fun.
I want to see Joaquin Phoenix in a rom-com.
I'm with who?
I don't know, but Ray Fine was in one.
Maybe with his wife. Put him with Rooney Mara.
They would be able to pull it off, I think.
Yeah.
I think it would be a strange... It wouldn't be anyone but you.
No.
It wouldn't be this type of rom. It would be one where you're like, this is a comedy?
Yeah.
But then if you really think about it, you're like, actually, that is kind of funny.
Right.
Way after the fact.
Yeah.
I don't know if they would be my first choice, but I just think that it would be funny to see Joaquin kind of open up a little bit. I think it would be fun to have an older couple rom-com too.
Yeah.
I was just thinking of Something's Gotta Give, like a Nancy Meyers style. But I'm trying to think of who it would be, like a Steve Carell or like a Ryan Gosling and someone,
Sure.
I guess I'm just thinking of
Crazy Stupid Love.
But I think that it would be, and also not that those two are the same age, but you know what I mean.
No, but they
not
are
not like early 20s,
Yeah, right.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking like something like that, or maybe even older.
Why can't we do Anthony Hopkins and Jane
I
Fonda?
don't know how much Anthony Hopkins is going to be acting anymore.
Has he ever done a romantic comedy?
I can't imagine.
Me either.
I can't imagine. Why not start now? You know what? Why don't we do Jane Fonda and Anthony Hopkins in a romantic comedy?
Why don't we do like Lily Tomlin and Holland Taylor?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think that could work.
Lily Tomlin and anyone could work.
Honestly, Lily Tomlin and literally anyone on the planet.
Anyone on Earth.
And I'm
and
in.
Pete Davidson. That's it. That's it.
I think we got it.
Lily Tomlin and Pete Davidson.
Yeah. that's the rom-com. Book it. Or how about Marissa Tomei and anybody?
Marissa Tomei and anybody too, yeah. Lily Tomlin and Pete Davidson. I know Pete Davidson's a little older, but it gives me Harold and Maude vibes.
Wait, why can't we get a Lily Tomlinson and Pete Davidson? Lily Tomlin and Pete Davidson meet cute?
We need it. That's it. We have to get on board with this. This has to happen.
I think we found our hit.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Will this relationship last in Anyone But You?
Nah.
I think I convinced myself earlier, yes.
Why?
Because they didn't hate each other because they didn't like each other's personalities. And so I think that as long as they work on the communication aspect, I think it could work out.
Yeah, but they haven't done anything together. They've talked for a day.
They traveled.
They talked for a day.
They saved each other.
They didn't live with each other.
They survived a near-death experience.
So what?
When they fell off the boat.
So what? Yeah, then they get rescued by the helicopter.
That was
when
funny.
They're sitting on the buoy singing Unwritten.
Yeah, yeah. So I think they will last, and they've already met. The families. They've already talked about the childhood trauma. Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah.
There's so in the beginning, he shows her that wrench that he has in his house.
Yeah.
And he says my mom, my mom said this to me. She said, no matter how broken something is, it's never too late to fix it.
It's yes.
And I thought that was going to come back later on in the movie, and it never did. They mentioned the wrench
in general.
Right. But I thought
I
thought that the wrench was going to be
yeah, it really doesn't.
It just never showed. They talk about it.
He has to use the wrench.
Pete says it or something like that.
Yeah.
He mentions it, but that's it. He was like, "Oh man, you showed her the wrench."
Right.
Okay, so what do you think about this concept? Them having to go to Australia together for this wedding. They they didn't know each other, but their friend, because of the brides, they both are in the same wedding party.
I think it's cute. I love the premise.
Okay.
I think it's adorable. I love that kind of stuff.
What did you think about the way that it was done in this movie what would you have done if you were a guest or someone else in this wedding party? Because I thought that these two were insufferable to the
Here's
rest,
the problem
to the rest
is that
of the wedding
these
party.
two made everything about them from start to finish.
They absolutely did. It's funny. I don't have a problem with it.
It's funny. In real life it would be less funny.
It would be so obnoxious.
Insufferable. Yeah. But in the movie I think it's cute. I like it. It's it's funny. And then one of the brides alludes to it later where one of them is like, "Oh, why don't you go for a walk? I'm so sorry he hurt you." And then the other one goes "And we'll come with you." And then the first girl goes, "No, we will not because this is my wedding.
This is literally our wedding.
It's our wedding, so we will not be doing that." So I thought that was cute. It kind of referenced that idea that they literally were insufferable the whole time.
I would have. I just know that if this were real life, I would have been so mad if I was not only the brides but any other wedding guest here.
Totally.
At the end, another thing that bothered me was B was kind of not a good person in some of this movie. Remember when they're stealing cookies at the end? Her and
I hated that.
The model. The ex?
Yeah, I hated that. At one point, I'm so confused. Okay, I'm so confused by this. How little petty stealing is cute. It's not cute. Especially because it was from a small business.
Who was they were picking up the wedding cake.
Yeah, they were
right?
picking up the wedding cake, which of course ended up getting messed up.
Thanks to the dog.
Yeah.
Klonopin
the dog. There's a little part where Sydney Sweeney and the model, they take a macaron.
Yeah, from behind
and
the counter.
And they just eat it while the guy's in the back getting the wedding cake. And I'm like, oh, okay. Are they going to get in trouble? Nope. It was just this, we're girls. And it's no, girls don't steal.
They didn't even mention it. They just kept talking in the conversation.
I hated that. Yeah, that very much gave me rude That's like not okay
like
vibes.
privileged people.
Yeah, I
you know.
really did not like that actually, and I don't understand the purpose of
There
it.
was no reason for it.
Yeah.
It wasn't played for comedy. It wasn't played for
No,
anything.
it was just like, oh, they're just eating a macaron that they just stealed.
It wasn't like, oh, we're not supposed to like Meredith after this.
No, it's like, oh, they're cute and likable,
Yeah.
and I'm like, they just stole something.
From like a small business. That's the problem for me.
Yeah.
If they were at like a freaking Walmart.
No, it's still not good. You don't steal.
But it's especially worse
When it's in that situation. It made
Yeah.
no sense to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. I that was weird. And then she also this whole time she's like kind of mean to Glenn Powell at one point. Yeah, when she's like, "Oh, you're a mistake." Basically.
After they had like hooked up.
Yeah. Like immediately
And
after.
it wasn't a bad. It wasn't like
no,
she was
they
breaking
were
it
just
off.
like, time to go to sleep. And then she's like, I keep making mistakes. I regret everything I've ever done in my life.
And then she falls right asleep.
And I'm like, oh, okay. So it's not just a miscommunication trope. It's a you're being mean trope.
Yeah.
But you know what? Glenn Powell was kind of mean too at the beginning.
I also respect the kind of realism of people just being toxic with each other because I feel like that's so common in like early on relationships with people like this.
It's wild.
What did you think of the whole when the family was trying to get them together? It
That's
was like
cute.
some of the people were trying to get them together, and some of the people, you know, her parents were trying to get her back with her ex.
I did think it was cute because the scene where like Pete and then the Australian
Roger.
stepdad.
Yeah, Pete's
were,
stepdad.
Yeah, were like it was obviously fake and they were terrible
They
at it.
were like behind the bushes.
Yeah, trying to
knew
be
that-
like, hey, Ben and B should really get together. Yeah, I think B really likes him. Knowing that Ben was listening, and it was so poorly done. I thought that was cute.
Roger, I wrote down. Roger was like, "Who are you talking? Like what are you doing here? You're messing it up." And Gaeta goes, "It's a radio play, mother effer."
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I also thought there were too many F words in this movie.
There were a lot.
Too many.
But
it didn't come naturally. A well-placed bad word is good. This one, they said that word a lot. And I've seen Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
I get it. But this one, it felt like we're making a rated R romantic
And
comedy.
it wasn't that raunchy.
It wasn't.
Like that type of.
No. So I thought that was unnecessary too.
But yeah, I thought that was really funny too. I liked, and it's very Shakespeare.
It is very
You know?
Shakespeare. Yeah.
Like the two, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern off in the corner talking about whatever.
Totally. Yeah, the asides and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
Those
was very-
little scenes in the middle.
Oh, and the thing about Shakespeare in this movie is that they literally just plaster Shakespeare quotes around the entire.
Yeah, that was weird too.
Like in the background, there would be a building, and then it would just have like a quote from Much Ado About Nothing. Like,
Yeah, I didn't like that, and it was like a framing device.
yeah,
Sort of, but I didn't think that they were particularly.
poignant.
Yeah,
or meant anything.
And there were a couple of times where there were a few, like bits of dialogue that I think were Shakespeare
references
quotes.
because no, like real people say those things.
Right, but at least when 10 Things I Hate About You did it, it
It
felt
was subtler.
It was a little more subtle, or it was the big ones, the
Yeah.
big lines.
Right.
And here I was just like, what?
Yeah, it felt like they were shoehorning that stuff in.
Exactly.
Oh, what about we didn't talk about the little Titanic scene, which was funny.
That was cute.
They're trying to prove to everybody that they're on like a boat for the rehearsal dinner or like the night before, and they're trying to prove to everybody that they're in love. And they do she's like, Titanic me, like in the front of the boat.
That was cute.
And then they do it, and they're like, Glenn Powell keeps like looking back to make sure that everyone's looking at them.
Yeah.
And then they're all like, oh well, like all the people back there, they're like, oh, that's cute, and they just like walk away.
Yeah, that was funny. I like that.
And then of course that's when they fall out of the boat,
Yes.
and then they have to get picked up by
Like
the rescue.
The rescue squad in a helicopter.
Yeah. What about?
Oh, but also that was weird too, because then after they got rescued, they like went home and like no one knew they were home, and like
oh yeah,
no one checks on them.
yeah. No one sees them till the next morning.
Yeah, and also you said something that I was like, yeah, it seemed like no one had cell phones the entire movie.
Not at all. It would have been one thing if they were like, all right, we're going no cell phones for this because we want everybody to enjoy the weekend,
Live in the
We wanna be
moment.
in-" Like even a line of dialogue like that I would have been like, okay, but
At least then there's an explanation. But like, what? There were no cell phones the entire movie.
2023. This movie came out December 26th, 2023, Oscar season.
Yeah,
And
of course.
And there's not a cell phone in sight.
Wild.
Also, remember the song at the end that they played during when they meet at the opera house at the end and they
Yeah.
like get together finally
Yeah, that was weird.
for good? It was like such a strange song to pick.
It was. This music was.
It was
so...
called Bottle Rocket, and it was like written for this movie, and it's
Oh,
like,
really?
I think so. And it's like early 2010s kind of like Kygo style,
Yeah.
like almost synthy, not quite EDM, but like something sort of based in that era. And it was
Hear me out,
it felt
though, Tom.
so dated.
Eurovision's coming up,
True.
right? Think about it. The other guy, not SD Heim, but the other guy is an Australian DJ. Remember, Eurovision stuff, 10 to 15 years behind what the U.S.
Right.
like releases are.
And if you don't know, Australia, it does take part in Eurovision.
They do. So it kind of makes sense to me.
Maybe. Yeah. And then, of course, the like cheesiest place they could have gotten together at the end at the Sydney Opera House.
Opera House? What?
Because they had a slight conversation about it earlier
It's
in
like,
the
oh,
movie.
there's gonna like, oh, aren't proposals so romantic there?
She's
or
like,
whatever?
oh, yeah. She was like, oh, or one of them said, oh, you know, when I go there, all I see is people falling in love. And
Yeah,
people
I'm like, at the Sydney Opera House.
at like
That's
a
weird.
tourist trap.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah. So then they get together in front of there.
Yep.
It's little Irish Wish, with them going to
A lot of drones.
was it the Cliffs of Moher
Yeah.
at the end?
Yeah. Yeah.
After
it
they
is.
had been there earlier in the movie.
Hey,
Hey, it's a little Hallmark. It's a little Hallmark plus at points in this movie.
it is.
Uh,
I think it more of Netflix.
okay. Well,
Yeah.
Netflix kind of is Hallmark plus.
Yes. It's
It-
Hallmark plus plus.
Yeah. I think that's all I got
Yeah.
on Anyone But You.
Perfect.
Do you have anything else?
Nah, I liked it.
Yeah, no, seriously. We
Good
kinda,
movie. It was cute.
We kind of ragged on it a little bit. I didn't mind it. I thought it was fine.
Yeah.
And I'm happy that it made a lot of money, and I'm hoping that more of these types of movies will be made and released theatrically, because I think that that's really, really important for movies. We got to get people back to theaters, and I think that bringing back a sort of renaissance of romantic comedies will do that.
Yeah.
Does Anyone But You make Baby's First Watch List?
Yeah.
Yeah, especially when you want to show like why we should have more of these movies.
Yeah. And anytime it's on TBS, I'll keep it on.
Yeah, I think that's exactly the type of movie this is.
Right?
Yeah, so that's Anyone But You. And shout out Klonopin the dog.
He was so cute.
Yeah, we love Klonopin the dog here.
Yep.
One of the funniest names for a dog.
Oh, that was
maybe
hilarious.
in the history of movies. That's pretty much it. Thank you for listening to Anyone But You. Next week we have, is it Ma next
I
week?
think it's Ma.
It's Ma. All right. So you've probably seen the memes if you haven't seen the movie. It is a horror movie, thriller movie.
Yeah, like a horror.
Came out in 2019. It's like a slasher. It's called a psychological horror on Wikipedia, and it stars Octavia Spencer
Queen.
as Ma.
We love her.
And the tagline is "Get home safe."
It's good stuff.
And she is apparently like killing people.
Oh, I've read the whole Wikipedia
killing
page multiple times.
teenagers, right?
Oh, yeah, and their parents and like all
Yeah.
kinds of stuff, yeah.
Because of how she was treated by them, or like something like
yeah,
that.
Yeah, I think it's like the parents are mean to her, so now she's gonna like be mean to the kids.
Yeah, which is a little like slightly different, but a little Nightmare on Elm Street, where it was like the parents killed Freddy, so now Freddy's killing all their kids.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so tune in next week for our Mother's Day special. So our resident mother, Erin,
That's
picked
me.
the movie that she wanted to do for Mother's Day,
Yeah,
and it was Ma. So
Yep.
we're gonna do Ma next week.
because I always make these boneheaded decisions on what to do.
Please check it out if you haven't. Please join us next week for Ma.
And then what else are we doing after that?
After that, we're doing Toy Story 2,
Woo!
and then Swingers, which we already
we
recorded.
already recorded that. Woo!
And then our 100th episode, which is Popstar Never Stop, Never Stopping.
Top 3 movies all time.
And then we'll see you in the fall after that.
Love that.
So we're going to finish strong here.
Yep.
Strong. Toy
Strong.
Story 3.
Toy
Toy
Story
Story 2.
2.
Strong.
Yeah, Toy Story 3 would be better.
Yeah, so thanks for listening, and we will see you guys next week for Ma.
Okay, goodbye. Wait, what's an Australian way to say goodbye?
G'day.
Crikey.
Oh God, we're getting pulled off the internet. All right, see you guys later.
Bye.